I'm Lauren Green, and you're in the strategy room. The months-long conflict in Yemen between Saudi-supported government backers and Iran-supported rebels is bringing the region to the brink. The terror group ISIS sees an opening in the chaos and is looking to establish a new branch in Yemen, raising new concerns over their global expansion. Here with their take are Katherine Zimmerman from the American Enterprise Institute and retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer from the London Center for Policy Research. Welcome to you both.
Hey, Lauren. Thank you.
Lieutenant Colonel, let me start with you. Is ISIS
Sure.
building a new branch of their organization in Yemen?
Absolutely. We've gotten warnings late last year. There were indicators that ISIS was beginning to become what we would call expeditionary. They were moving forward in places like Afghanistan and Pakistan and also in this area. And notably, and I've said this several times, I think we've even talked about it a bit, Lauren, wherever Al-Qaeda has been, you can surely figure that you're going to see ISIS attempt to either undermine or basically take over the Al-Qaeda elements. And we've seen that clearly going on in Yemen, where you had Al-Qaeda, doing horrible things from there. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula has been very effective, the most effective element of Al-Qaeda. So the more that you see Al-Qaeda grow because of the chaos there, the more you'll see ISIS take advantage of that.
And Katherine, your take as well on this Yemen strategy of ISIS.
ISIS is certainly looking to expand in Yemen, as we just heard. But the concern that I have is whether it actually will be able to take root. AQAP is a very established presence, and the violence that ISIS espouses and brings to the conflict is simply strange and foreign to Yemenis. So it might start to lose support if it continues to pursue the same tactics that it has in Iraq and Syria.
But does it matter, because it's really a Saudi-supported against Iran-supported kind of issue in here? There's a sort of proxy war going on, and are they just sort of seeing an opening to exploit? Katherine?
This is the opening, certainly, that ISIS is trying to exploit, and it's trying to drive Yemen's conflict toward a fully sectarian conflict between the Zaidi Shia al-Houthi movement and the rest of the Sunni population. It's not playing out that way yet on the ground, simply because the Yemenis see this much more as a political conflict that's turned to violence.
Yeah, and Lieutenant Colonel, can Yemen kind of withstand the onslaught of ISIS if they don't have Saudi Arabia on their backs?
Oh, this is the problem. I disagree with Katherine to a certain extent by the fact that I don't care what the people feel. The problem is it's ungoverned space. Anytime you have ungoverned space, you have the potential for any terrorist organization to basically dig its roots in. So this is the problem with the Houthi, and I don't care who's in charge. You have to have some level of stability, because we've seen it in Libya, where essentially ISIS has no fundamental support. They've become very effective in doing things. So if you look at the model of how ISIS was able to subsume the system in Libya, create all sorts of havoc, now actually leverage and make money off of the refugee flow into Europe, ISIS is going to figure it out and how to adapt in Yemen as well. And let's remember, Saudis are a common enemy. Both ISIS and the Houthi hate the Saudis, so they may well find a way to coexist sufficiently to go after the common enemy of the Saudis. This is not unheard of, where you've seen elements of the Iranians work with elements of other rebel organizations to go after certain interests in the Israeli and Lebanon area. So I think the ISIS folks may well adapt and figure out a way to work in this region.
And Katherine, what can really be done to sort of stop the extremist threat there?
That's really the question of the day, and it's not clear. There's no easy answer. The Saudi air campaign has stopped the direct threat from Yemen's missile systems to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia destroyed Scud missiles last week in Yemen, for example. But it hasn't stopped the al-Houthis, and it hasn't brought the key actors to the negotiating table. Everyone has agreed that needs to be a political solution, but it's not yet time for people to concede on key issues. And
Lieutenant Colonel, what is your take on how do you stop this extremist threat there in Yemen?
Well, right now you've got to figure out a way to get a quote-unquote legitimate government. Right now the UN has recognized President Hadi I think for better or for worse, that's where I think we're focused now. And the other thing, we can't be the ones actually going in. I think I agree that the diplomatic option is ultimately the solution, but you're going to have to use the military in some form to basically bring order back. And it can't be us. I think this 10-nation Gulf coalition led by the Egyptians and the Saudis is a good start. But we have to remember that, again, my biggest concern is ungoverned space. The more ungoverned space there is, the more potential there is for terrorist organizations to take root and be able to launch operations against us.
Okay, with that in mind, Lieutenant Colonel, where is this conflict in 6 months? How do you see it going?
Depends on how well we can support this coalition getting together. The coalition, I think, wants to do good things. That is the Saudis and Egyptians plus the other members. The question becomes the intelligence piece, logistics piece, and the political will. I think if we're there with them, and by the way, we've got to back the Houthi off because the Houthi are being supported directly, as we know, by the Iranians. Mm-hmm. The Iranians will continue to push the Houthi as long as they think they can do that and not jeopardize the nuclear framework. So I think this is linked. It depends on how much the nuclear framework is jeopardized and how quickly we can help that 10-nation coalition get its act together and try to restore legitimate government. It's not going to be an easy haul. I think we'll see chaos in 6 months. Hopefully a year from now we'll see some level of stability, but it's going to take a while. Okay,
Katherine, I want your predictions as well. Where do you see this conflict in 6 months?
I think we're going to see kind of moving along this similar trend, and as we just heard, it does need some military support. The issue that I have is that there are certain areas in eastern Yemen that are way outside of the current conflict, if you will, between the Saudis and the Houthis, and the coalition is not focused on Hadramaut, for example, and that's the ungoverned space that AQAP has taken advantage of. Yeah. The Yemeni government hasn't been there. It probably won't be there. So the question is how to inure that population to AQAP's influence.
All right. I want to thank you both, Katherine and Tony. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to check out FoxNews.com for more on this developing story. I'm Lauren Green, and thanks for watching.